All right, thank you for joining us here and watching us. I'm Mike Ryan, as you all know, in the class, and I'm here with Momodou Mbenga from he's a UNG alumnus from back in 21, and currently he's a senior client relationship manager at Morgan Stanley. So we're going to talk a little bit about economics and some investing and a few factors in the current environment. Thank you, Momodou, for joining us today.
Anytime, anytime. Thank you for having me.
Well, so I guess you and I spoke some before, but what are you seeing now in the current market with the inflation we've had in the past few years, and how does it affect the decisions that your clients make and consumption decisions, different things you're seeing in the economy?
So right now, inflation has been pretty high since the pandemic. So the government has been trying to combat that by increasing interest rates, right? So interest rates right now are pretty high. So the cost of borrowing money is higher for companies. You would expect this would cause, returns to be a little bit lower because the cost of, getting new investments and so forth is just going to be higher. But that's not necessarily the case that we've seen because the S&P 500 and NASDAQ, they're constantly seeing new highs and new highs, which shows that the economy is growing. Although inflation is still high, and the Fed actually just had a meeting today, and they're going to keep rates the same. So since January, everyone's been thinking, hey, they're going to cut rates, and make it a little bit more easier to borrow money, which would also make it easier for people to purchase homes, cars, and things of that nature. But right now, they're going to keep it as it is, just because they want to keep inflation low, and they're going to keep trying to do that. The way it's affected us specifically, as traders that work in the securities market, is uh, older clients at least now are more interested. Even younger clients are more interested in savings account because savings account yields are high right now, very high because of interest rates being high, and those are safe investments, FDIC insured, so your money's protected, and you're going to get at least a steady rate of return. Uh, Tech has been big. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to that, but tech has been really big this year because of AI and so forth. So we've seen big gains in the stock market. But yeah.
Yeah, so those are shaping preferences, and you made a great comment about the Fed. Probably when students see this video, we won't have gotten to the Fed part of the semester yet,
Mhm.
but we'll study the Fed, and the Fed is independent. And oddly enough, the Fed is not part of the federal government, but that independence allows them to go in directions that maybe elected officials, even president, you and I, we may want or not want. So that's a good little segue. The students see that down the
especially
line.
especially in an election year. So a lot is going to determine on what happens this year, who ends up winning. That's going to
Mhm.
affect a lot of things down the
Yeah.
line.
So that's interesting. And this is ancient history for you and for the students, but goodness gracious, back in the election back in 1992, that was George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton. Uh,
Mhm.
George H.W. Bush wanted the Fed to drop rates, and the Fed felt like now that the inflation was too much concern, they wanted to raise rates, and the Fed did what they want to do because it's independent. And any president can't push around. But you also mentioned a good example of substitutes there: equities, investment in stocks for students,
Mhm.
and bonds, the fixed income or savings accounts, something like that. So, what do you think? How are the preferences changing now? Um, are people more risk averse, or are they just jumping on those high nominal interest rates? They see those high nominal interest rates on the savings account or subs, and they jump right on top of it.
I think it depends more on age, as I mentioned earlier. So you have older clients, people that are about to retire, they have their IRAs, they don't want to take on too much risk. So those clients are getting more out of the stock market because that could be a little bit volatile. Even this year with tech having huge gains, some tech stocks, I don't know if you guys have seen Nvidia, that's been all over the place. So even it's that volatility that they're trying to avoid of prices going up and down. So they're going towards safer options. Older clients are going towards bonds, fixed income securities like U.S. Treasuries, high yield savings accounts, because you know that your money is at least safe. The U.S. government is
Mhm.
considered safe, and they're not going to default. So they're going towards that. Younger people or people that are a little bit more aggressive, they're still going towards the stock market. They're trying to capture those gains that the tech industry has seen this year, and just focusing more on that because you're gonna make more. If the more risk you take on, the more likely you're gonna make a little bit more.
Yeah. Okay, and one other thing you mentioned before to me that relates to this and interest rates and inflation, housing market. So with
Mm-hmm.
your customers, you don't make their housing investments for their housing decisions, but your counsel and your advice helps their finances, which then informs their housing and vice versa. I guess when they're selling a house, they may be coming to you with proceeds. So
Oh yeah.
in this market, what have you seen in terms of the housing market and the different economic factors that you've observed?
So interest rates are high, so it makes the cost of borrowing for regular people like us to purchase homes a little bit harder. So right now, the only people that I've seen constantly coming in and out when it comes to buying and selling homes, they're a little bit older. These are clients that have a lot of money.
Well,
Yes,
the older part, not the money part.
so they have a little bit of money. They already have a home, so they sell it. They retain those proceeds. They already have it a home in mind right now. So what they're doing with those funds is, with interest rates being so high, is that they're putting it either in money markets, which are just short term investments that you can put in, and the interest rates are pretty high on those, and high yield savings accounts. So that's where most people are putting their money from these, either when they sell homes or when they're saving up to buy a home, because they need something safe where they can put their money in. And the biggest thing is liquidity, to have that money accessible to them in case they need to close in 2 days, a week, and so forth. Money markets usually pretty liquid. You can sell them, turn around, get that money in a day or two. So because of that, they're focusing a little bit more on those high yield savings and money markets. They're not going into CDs and other things like that, and even stocks. The stocks, because who knows, you could end up losing money. It's volatile. CDs, you have to deal with the fact that you're locking up your money, so you won't be able to use it and go ahead and purchase your home when that time does come.
All right. Well, that's great. I appreciate the economic discussion. We use that for students. One other thing I like to do for students that is not directly related to economics is talk a little about the career search. As young people, you recently were involved in job search, fairly recently, and they're going to be looking in the job market in the next couple of years. Maybe not this year, but it's coming for them in terms of degrees, and then looking for a permanent job or moving to other cities and that type of thing. So, just in general, what type of tips, what type of advice do you give to current college students who are going to be entering the job market? What would you suggest?
I would just say it's a very competitive industry, the job market. So you got to think that, one, there's going to be older people that have more experience than you, and you also have younger people coming in every single year that are either around your same level or about. So you need to find some ways to distinguish yourself amongst the population. So while you're in school, what I suggest is, when I was in school, I was a finance major, but I did internships or try to do jobs that have something to do with either money, whether it's banking or things like that, or joining clubs. So join clubs like, I know UNG has a NACTIS club, which is a business club. There's the Student Money Mentor. You guys can join that, which just gives you a little bit. So just adding more to your resume, distinguishing yourself, uh, and customer service. The thing about the financial services industry is that you're going to have to be able to deal with people. So anything, work on your people skills, the ability to talk to people from different cultures, backgrounds. Sometimes people are angry; they lost a lot of money. So just being able to resonate with people. So I would say, really, the biggest is you're working on your people skills, and trying to get some internships in a field that's kind of related to what you want to do, whether it's finance, business, whatever the case may be. Just getting your feet wet and getting some of that knowledge will really help, because once you graduate, you will have kind of a leg up against everyone else that graduated that maybe did not do those things, because you kind of have experience. And these companies do value experience.
That sounds great. Well, I think that's great advice. We have you mentioned some clubs. I think Beta Alpha Psi is the accounting club, which also takes finance majors. I'm
Mm.
jealous of them because they do such a great job. Also, the investment club, who is doing investing mostly in Delano, but also Gainesville. So there's a
Yeah,
couple
that was
options
that
there.
was
But
that was that wasn't there when I was around. I think the investment club. So yeah, I would take advantage of that. There's a one thing that I wish I knew when I was back in school
yeah,
is SIE, which is the basic securities test. You can take it at any point. You don't need to be sponsored by any firm or anything like
nice.
that. But it's, I think, 120 questions, and it's just basic knowledge on the security industry, stocks, bonds, so forth. So you can take this test, and once you pass it and so forth, it'll be on it. I think it's FINRA that gives it out.
Mhm.
So you can set up a time to take the test. You pass the test. It looks really good because you're taking that initiative to already have that. So
Mhm.
if you want to go to any big firm, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, so forth, you're already showing that initiative that, you did this on your own time. So yeah.
All right. Well, that sounds like great advice. I appreciate the time today, and
Sure,
I
anytime.
appreciate it too. Thanks very much.